Yo. All right, so me and Cloudybear here are going to discuss our top 5 games of 2021. Yeah, we've done this several years in a row, right? It's usually fun to do.
Almost every year in a row, unless we may have skipped one because of children being born.
I don't even remember skipping one. I think it's been maybe every year. I don't know, like 2016 maybe or something.
It might be.
Yeah, because I remember doing, and that I think we did with Steve too, and I remember being wait.
Rip Steve.
Yeah. I remember being shocked that not all of us had Uncharted 4 as the game of the year. Although, actually, I didn't. What am I thinking? I had The Last Guardian, of course.
Overwatch was mine that year.
Yeah. But, so...
Rip Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, welcome. I guess we can start with honorable mentions. I don't have a ton. I have Kena Bridge of Spirits. Also, I just finished Solar Ash. That was really good. And I am going to play Pray for the God soon, but I haven't played any at all. So, yeah, I really couldn't say if that would be an honorable mention. But I don't know. I would like to give honorable mentions to some expansions like the Iki Island in Ghost of Tsushima. That was really fucking awesome. In some ways, I kind of liked it more than the main game just because it was so much shorter and more focused, and it was just kind of a relief to have just a shorter experience. There was one thing in it that annoyed the hell out of me, but otherwise I just absolutely loved it. And the thing that annoyed me, have you played it?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. I'm shocked because that was your game of the year last year.
Yeah, I know. It came out during, what was it, like August or September?
Yeah, August.
Yeah, there was a lot of... I was trying to push through a game or two at the time to just finish them because I had, like, Tales of Arise and a couple other games coming up in September that I wanted to get done in time for that, and I was in the middle of like 2 or 3 games, and just it's there, it's on the list. I want to. I will probably try to once I finish Endwalker.
I think it took me like 20 hours. I did a lot of extra stuff, but it's pretty substantial and really good. The one thing, I mean, it's not really a spoiler. The one thing that annoyed me is like this Mongolian lady that, like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. I won't explain it, but like there are times where you'll hear her voice in your head base, and it just gets incredibly annoying at times. But you'll see.
I believe
that's the one thing that bothered me, because like you'll be trying to listen for enemies and then she's just like talking. You know? Like,
wasn't something like that in the trailer anyways?
I don't remember.
A lady talking. I don't know if it was necessarily in your head or if it was clear that it was in your head, but something like that was going on in the trailer.
Yeah. But other than that, it was awesome. Also, as far as expansions last year, the best one, Doom Eternal, Ancient Gods Part 2, wasn't quite as unbelievable as Part 1, but it was still great and wrapped up the story like really pretty nicely, and just had some really epic fucking moments in it, and of course the best gameplay in the business. So Can't go wrong with that. And then the one other thing I wanted to honorably mention is the Mass Effect Trilogy. It's a really good remaster. They did a good job, and if I was including remasters in my Game of the Year list, which, you know, they came out 10 years ago, so you really can't, but they would be, like, probably the top 3 on my fucking list. Like, they were so fucking good, all 3 of them, and 2 would be my Game of the Year this year if I cheated and included remasters, but I'm not going to do that. So, yeah. But that's it for my honorable mentions. What,
Yeah, 2 is still amazing.
Oh, it's a fucking masterpiece in every way possible.
Easily one of the games of the PS3 generation. Easily.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it would be higher on my list than I expected.
Yep.
Or maybe not, but like, yeah, no, it would be in my top 5 without a doubt on PS3.
My honorable mentions, Kenna is also an honorable mention. It was good. The story was good. The graphics were good. Just the
art
combat.
Style, awesome.
Yeah, all of that were great, but the combat just really held it back for me.
Yeah.
Just I could never quite wrap my head around the timing of things and the lack of fluidity to the combat and the parry timing and stuff like that. It was just, it seemed weird and off all the time. So
yeah, like I had similar issues and I played on hard, which made it worse. Yeah, but there was also like some things I felt that were just kind of strange with, like, it wasn't really consistent or clear about what actions you can interrupt and which ones you can't. Like, I feel like Dark Souls and stuff do a good job on that. Like, it's pretty obvious what you can't do while you're doing something else, while Kenna was much less consistent. But it is their first game that they've ever made as a studio, and I gotta say that it's pretty incredible that they made something as good as it is, considering it's
absolutely. That's exactly why it's an honorable mention.
Yeah, it's really good, really cool story too. But yeah, I think we both have the same problems. So, and yeah, I struggled big time with the final boss too as well. Like, that was just insane. It took me like 2 hours or something like that.
And like we discussed, the one before that gave me more trouble than the final boss somehow, hilariously.
Yeah, he was tough. I had a little less trouble with him because I think it was just that they took away your a lot of your powers, and then having to fight the regular enemies without the powers. Yeah, that was where I was struggling. Wasn't even necessarily the final boss. It was like more just the enemies in between.
Right.
But yeah.
All right.
You got
next
more honorable? Yep. Yeah.
Another honorable mention: Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh yeah.
I played
that's
a
right.
good deal amount of it. I didn't finish it because other shit came out. I like it. I don't like it quite as much as World, but it's still a great game. Definitely need to finish it. I got about like 60%, of the way through, so I'm quite a ways through. Scarlet Nexus. It was a really great JRPG. The only problem I had with it was the combat was a lot of fun. It was more like action. Much more like an action RPG-based combat system than most JRPGs, even more so than like Nier, something you'd be more familiar with.
Yeah.
The story was good. It was just kind of weird and at times almost nonsensical, and it took way too long to come together. So there were parts where I just had no idea what was going on, but not a ton of idea what was going on. It took way too long to really figure itself out. and it wasn't even like a pacing issue. It was just weird narrative issues that kind of held it back for me, but it was still enjoyable.
I heard that about it.
Yep. Tales of Arise is an honorable mention. I'm enjoying my time with it, but I haven't played a lot of it, unfortunately. I just haven't had a ton of time for JRPGs in the latter part of the year. With a notable exception that we'll get to eventually. Honorable mention, Resident Evil Village. I haven't played a lot of it. I actually have really enjoyed what I have played, and I'm pretty excited to finish up some other things to get really into it.
Huh. Cool.
I don't know if you'll get into it later or not.
I'm hoping they make a VR version.
Oh, I meant even on your list, but if you haven't played it, then
I could have, because my friend got it, and I'm game sharing. But yeah, no, I felt like 7 was kind of ruined by me playing it on flat screen before VR, and it just wasn't scary to me at all because of that. Well, also just because it's not that scary of a game, to be honest, but it hurt. Yeah, it would have been much better of an experience if I waited and played it on VR, but at the time I wasn't even expecting to get a VR. Just because of the price was just kind of, I thought, ridiculous at first, and then it went down to like half price within a year. So it was, an easy pickup then.
Oh yeah, and this definitely, considering it's basically 7 again.
Yeah.
I can see them. Capcom is pretty good about continuing support for their games for like a while. So this feels like the kind of game that would get VR, especially if PS5 VR comes out relatively soon. Like next year or this coming year.
Yeah, possibly the end of the year, but it is like not an easy thing to do, but I feel like if they were smart, they would have already kind of built some things in there to make it easier for when they do add the support for it. Because they already did it with 7, and 8 is pretty similar to 7, so it shouldn't be as difficult as it was the first time with 7,
Especially if they're using a similar or even the same engine for Village as they did for 7.
Yeah, they are. It's I forget the name of it, because they use it for a few different games, like including Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh.
Yep, it's
interesting.
Pretty good engine.
Yeah, no complaints from me from that game.
And they also used it for, the remakes of 2 and 3 and stuff, too. I think it might actually be called the RE engine.
You could do worse at the peak to the north. It's one of the highest on the ring.
But, anyways, did you have more honorable mentions, or do we want to go to our number?
2 more. You may discuss this later.
Yep.
It was hard for me. I've been kind of struggling with this, even though I came up with my list very quickly. I've been struggling with this idea of this game for a few weeks now, but it just barely missing my top 5 is Returnal.
Oh.
It was very good. There was a lot to enjoy. It's just there were a couple games to me that were better this year. So we could discuss it more, because I feel like we'll be discussing it more.
Possibly very soon.
Yeah. And then my last honorable mention, this would be much, much higher, and even easily in the top 5 if I had played more of it, but Guardians of the Galaxy. What I've played, I absolutely love. I love the characters. I really enjoy the story. I love their take on the characters. People shit all the time on, like, the Avengers game, as much for the gameplay as the fact that it's like not the MCU, but care about that.
I think it's close enough.
I've always enjoyed the comics to begin with, that I don't care whether a character looks like their MCU counterpart or something like that, because the MCU counterparts are just real life versions of the comic versions anyways. It's always a stupid argument to me. But
well, also I feel like a part of it is like with certain characters like Batman and Spider-Man, we've seen several different versions, while a lot of the MCU characters, we've only seen one version really, like as far as real life, you know what I mean? So it's easier, or it's tougher for us to see those characters a different way when all we've seen is just the one version, you know what I mean? Or at least for a lot of people like myself, but
real.
yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's always annoyed me how people shat on the Avengers game that came out last year because it wasn't the MCU, but it was too close to the MCU, and it like the comic versions don't exist. All the comic versions basically look all the same with slight deviations. You know, Captain America is always a tall, blonde hair, buff, white dude with blue eyes.
Yeah.
Iron Man is always black hair, you know, goatee.
Yep.
Not muscular, but you know, all that. So it's just, anyways, characters, story, music, gameplay, so far all great. I'm in chapter 6 or 7. I just got to nowhere.
Oh, cool.
And so far, everything about it has been great. And the story has been, not amazing, but it's been good and picking up. So I really want to know where it goes. And, it would definitely most likely be higher if I had played more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember when you started, you said that was going to be your game of the year.
If I had played more of it, it may have been.
Yeah.
But the only reason is because I haven't played as much of it as I should to give it that fair chance, with one small exception that we'll get to. But amazing game. I'm sure we may talk about it somewhere as well.
Yes. Okay, so my number 5 is, like you just mentioned, Returnal. Yeah, like I said, is gonna be soon on that one. I really loved the gameplay. I thought it was super fun, even the roguelite elements. Although I can see how some of it would be annoying, especially like I heard about some of the trophy stuff where it's just really egregious. My biggest problem with it was just how glitchy it was at launch, especially for anyone using custom controls, which I had to. Like, I would not have enjoyed the game anywhere near as much if it didn't have custom controls. Just because in a game like this where you're having to you're dodging, it's like a bullet hell, so you're dodging while also being offensive and shooting stuff. I need to have jump and dash on things other than the face buttons. Like, like a lot of games, they put just jump on X and then dash on circle. And to me, that is not conducive to this type of game, and I just can't stand that. So yeah, no, I had no choice but to use the custom controls, and they were very, very bugged to the point where not only was it like reversing some, my sticks and like some other things, but it also was even inverting the Y and X axis at the same time. Actually, and then there was some other shit that was even crazier than that. Like somehow it put movement on one, like it went to legacy controls somehow. Like it was absurd. Like I've never seen a glitchier game as far as controls go. Like they did patch it for the most part, and at a certain point I just like had to not mess with the controls at all to avoid bad shit happening. So that was a pretty big problem for me. Also, just the lack of story. Like, the story was kind of cryptic, which I think is okay, but it just, I don't know, wasn't that interesting, and there wasn't much of a payoff, to be honest. So I felt like it would have been, and I didn't expect much story from this, but I felt like it would have been better if they had just put more into it. But the gameplay was really fucking solid. Amazing boss fights too.
And it honestly took a lot of randomness to even get a lot of the good parts of the story, with like Celine's
The house stuff.
that and some of the stuff that she would find on like her other bodies, which were totally random, so you may not even like come across them.
Yeah.
A lot of little tidbits of lore and filler in the story and stuff like that, which were always interesting, but just you may not have always found, or someone may not have come across them at all if they didn't play enough.
Yeah, like I had to go to a story explanation to really even know the story for the most part. Although I had a good idea after I finished it, but yeah, great game, but could have been better, I think. Really solid gameplay, though.
Great attempt for Housemarque's first, like, AAA.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of the best.
Considering everything they've done to this point, the gameplay has always been fantastic with Housemarque games, and that has, you know, translated 100% here. Just, you know,
and the
story,
the whole
issues.
bullet hell. Yeah, the whole bullet hell aspect too was really cool in 3D. Like, yeah, I thought they did an awesome job with that.
Totally agree. It came close. Just there weren't. If there were only four games in my mind better this year, it would have been on the list. But it was just kind of barely eked out at the end for me. There are just a few better ones in my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, yeah, also had great sound, and I mean, the DualSense support was kind of cool, but I felt like they could have done a lot more with it at the same time. Like, it's certainly no Astrobot, but nice 3D sound and stuff, and yeah. But, yeah, that's about all I got to say about Returnal.
Okay. My number 5 is Monster Hunter Stories 2, a Switch game that came out earlier this year. It is kind of similar to Pokemon in that you battle monsters in like an RPG setting, and you collect monster eggs and hatch them and raise them to build your team, and you could have a variety of monsters from the Monster Hunter universe on your team and all that, with battles being kind of like a rock paper scissors type of system where you can have one of 3 weapons, and certain weapons are strong against certain body parts of monsters that you can break, much like in the Monster Hunter mainline games. You can break off monsters' parts for items and stuff like that for crafting, which also translate and come into this game until you get stronger weapons and armor. You know, take the Monster Hunter formula, turn it into a Pokemon JRPG. That's Monster Hunter Stories 2. The previous one was pretty good, but kind of it had a lot of issues that they definitely solved and made a far better game this time around, including the story, which was great. I really enjoyed it. I put a lot of time into it. The story was pretty freaking good, considering, you know, the one before was okay. I wasn't expecting game of the year type of material for me, but it just hit a lot of notes for me that I really enjoyed, and spent a lot of time on it. I don't have my Switch on me to double check the time, but it was easily 30-40 hours. And yeah, all around really fun, really enjoyable, really great game. It may have even been a little higher for me if it wasn't for some of the repetitive nature of the fights. In like a Pokemon game, you get to the point where if you're fighting a wild Pokemon, you can usually kill it in like one hit, and fights take very short amount of time in general. In Monster Hunter Stories 2, however, a lot of fights take 2-3 turns. Some of the stronger monsters can take 10 turns. So that aspect of the game became a little tedious when you're fighting a bunch of things that all take a fairly long time to kill. But other than that, great game. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope they continue doing that going forward. I honestly prefer Monster Hunter Stories to the Monster Hunter mainline games.
Huh. Damn.
Because the story and the lore are similar, but just, I don't know, something about that JRPG aspect to it strikes the right chords for me, at least.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't heard too much about that game until now. I wasn't even sure what kind of game it was, because I think I might have seen it in a Nintendo Direct at some point, but
yeah, there were a couple of them this year for Monster Hunter Stories 2 specifically. Because it was one of those games where it was kind of a surprise that it even came out. The first one was on 3DS, and I think it did okay, but I'm not sure anyone really expected it to have done well enough to do a sequel. It was, pretty surprising, and a pleasant surprise.
yeah, so like one of those
Sure.
surprise sequel that you're definitely happy about.
That improved on the first one 100%.
Nice. Yeah, I always gotta love that. Sequel that completely improves on its previous entry, like Doom Eternal. But okay,
Mirror's Edge 2?
absolutely, thank you for reminding me.
Didn't expect the sequel, and yet it improved on everything of the original.
That is a good point, yeah, because it wasn't looking good for a Mirror's Edge sequel, and at least in my opinion, it completely improves on the first one. Some people complained about it being open world, but I am convinced that those people never even fucking played it. Like, I understand, like, hating the whole, open world checklist type, where there's a bunch of collectibles, but it really, the collectibles were, you only needed to worry about those if you were going for the platinum, and even then, a lot of them you didn't have to get. But like, otherwise, to me, parkour just makes sense in an open world. And then they had the linear missions for the story missions, which were just like the original. Yeah, I'm not gonna ramble about Mirror's Edge Catalyst, but that is a good, that is a good one to mention as far as, like we said, surprise sequels that ended up being way better than the original. Love that game.
I know you do. That's why I brought it up.
I platinumed this year, I think, too. So, Game of the Year 2021. That's my answer. No, all right. Now, I don't really have a 4. My 2, 3, and 4 are kind of ties. They're really a tie, in my opinion. But I'll just start with one of them, just for the sake of, splitting things up. And that is Oddworld Soulstorm. And I absolutely love this fucking game. I really liked New and Tasty as well, but this one is just like much better and really has like one of the coolest stories and just worlds, and it's just epic and really funny at times too. The cutscenes are some of the most gorgeous I've ever seen, even though it's in a pretty shitty engine, Unity. Somehow they managed to make the cutscenes look like Naughty Dog quality. And the gameplay is just super fucking fun and super hilarious at times, like all the ways you can die and how stupid you can look at times. It's just really fucking awesome the way they just animate things, and just like it's kind of slapstick comedy at points. But yeah, like the puzzles, just super fun. Also super fucking challenging. Like there are some parts that are really fucking tough, especially if you want to like go the extra mile to save, you know, as many Mudokons as possible to like get the good ending, which I did. It can be pretty brutal. And it's also got kind of like a more old style of gameplay, like with just the way that the platforming works. It's definitely like still got good controls and much better than the original games, but it also like it's one of those ones where you just gotta kind of get used to how it feels to really get things right all the time. It like it doesn't hold your hand as far as like certain stuff, but once you get like into the feel of it, it's really not too hard as far as the platforming. It's really more of just the not dying part, because it's very easy to die in the game. But yeah, it's just a super fun game, like, and I think sadly underrated. Like, I don't know how there's not more people talking about it, considering it was free on PlayStation Plus, but Oddworld has kind of always been that way. They're like people that rave about it, like me, and then there's a lot of people that simply have not played it.
Like me.
Yep. It is totally worth playing, I think, but I'm a huge fan of it, and New and Tasty I was as well. I think those are actually the only... I tried Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, didn't like it for the most part, but yeah, no, New and Tasty and Soulstorm were just unbelievable. But especially Soulstorm, like I mean, speaking of surprise sequels that improved a ton over the previous, yeah, that Soulstorm is one of them.
Alright, definitely what I would like to get around to, at least trying. I mean, there's almost no reason not to, considering it was free.
Yep.
I have it. I could play it at any time once I delete stuff off the PlayStation 5.
True.
Because we already had a room.
Did you get the expansion thing?
Yes, but I mean, that goes quick. Space goes quick.
You got the 1 terabyte, right?
Probably. I didn't feel like having to sell several children to be able to afford anything bigger.
I mean, actually, the 2 terabyte wasn't too bad. I paid like $340.
Yeah,
so
it was
it's kind of like double
what I
the
wanted
price.
to pay.
Oh yeah. I didn't mind though, just because I feel like it's like an investment that I won't have to upgrade for several years. Also because it'll take several years for the price to go down anyway. So
yeah,
I'm
why.
really glad that I did it. Like, even though it was more money than I wanted to spend as well. I mean, similar to the OLED Switch, it was just, and my 1 terabyte SD card was just like a worthwhile investment.
Yep. In both of those cases, for me, I'm okay with the steps down from those for the
Yeah,
time.
true that. But, okay, I think it's your number 4 next.
Yes. My number 4 is one that you will be able to discuss somewhat without having finishing it. Metroid. Metroid
That's funny,
Dread.
because that was going to be the next one I talked about.
Oh, so we'll just have a nice several-minute discussion about Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
Amazing game. Absolutely amazing game.
Yeah.
I've wanted to play a good Metroidvania for a while now, and Axiom Verge 2 did come out this year, but there's just something about, like, the
Metroid.
original. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just does everything so well and so right, and the one issue I had, I got totally lost at one part of the game, and I had to kind of look up where to go, because I was totally lost at that point and trying to find my way, and totally missed where I needed to go, because it was like one of those little, I don't even remember, like a hidden path or something. It was something dumb like that. But
Yeah.
aside from that one little small quip, everything else was just great. It holds your hand just enough where you usually can find your way without being too over the top and ridiculous, in my eyes at least. Or it's not like easy mode. And the game is not easy. It is pretty difficult. Surprisingly
In a good
difficult.
way, though.
Yeah. I mean, some bosses can be obnoxious, but for the most part, most hard enemies just become fodder by the end of the game, and it's not that big of a deal. When you first run into them, a couple can be annoying and difficult, but once you learn patterns and parries, which, you know, parrying in this game is actually pretty good and easy, usually.
Yeah.
It
There's some
it really,
that, like, change up the pace a little bit, and that can be annoying, but yeah, for the most part, it's good.
yeah, and it's never unfair, I don't think. Even if you struggle through a section, there's always like a checkpoint or the dread zones. It's auto saves right outside of them, so if you fuck up in those, you just get taken to the beginning of them and can redo it, which was great, because
Absolutely.
there were a few areas that weren't necessarily difficult, just you couldn't get through them
Without dying.
Yeah, just because you
On the
thought you
first
could
try.
go one.
Yeah.
Because you thought you could go down a path, but you actually couldn't go down a path because, I don't know, something was in the way, or then you had to double back, but then one of the fuck, what are they called? Blinking.
What?
The robots.
Oh, the Emmy.
The Emmys. It would block your way, and 9 out of 10 times if you get caught, you're done. The parrying on them is pretty precise and tight and annoying, and I kind of started figuring it out at the end.
Well, it's also like
And
random.
it was also luck.
Yeah, like you kind of have to guess, because the timing can be very random. Like sometimes it might be really delayed, other times they might just go right at you. Like that's why I was shocked. Like the other night, I parried an Emmy 3 times in a row successfully, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then it got me a 4th time. I was like, "Fuck!" I was like, I was right near the exit too, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like the one time I managed to parry it, like that many times, he catches me a 4th time, because it was near the end though, like where there was this tricky part where like you had to destroy blocks a certain way and quickly, but they were hidden until you actually like shot them, or that game could be so.
Good to have you, Chief.
But yeah, no,
Yep.
like, yeah, like you said, the bosses, or even just some of like the mini bosses, were tough but fair. Like the type of bosses that you'll die to, you know, several times when you first try it, but then once you get their moves down, it just becomes easy. And I feel like that's a really satisfying way to do like boss design and enemy design. Like I really loved that about the game for sure. And oh yeah, the other thing you said, like the checkpoints, 100%. Like that's a great point and like a huge reason that I didn't get frustrated that often with the game, despite it being pretty tough and me not being a big 2D player at all. Like, I get frustrated with 2D games pretty easily, just because they're just so different than what I'm used to. But, yeah, this one I haven't got frustrated too much. Like, there's a couple enemies that had some bullshit attacks, but once you figure out the way to avoid them, it's less of an issue. I unfortunately still have not figured out all of Ravenbeak's attacks, and also he's invincible some of the time too, which is annoying. But like, I'll get it. I'm sure I will. And then finish the game.
It was definitely the most challenging fight.
Yeah, I can. I would hope so. But also, it seems like it's so far. Although there were some pretty tricky other ones too, but so far this one seems like the toughest. I've made it to like the second stage when he's flying, briefly, but yeah, I haven't seen a third stage, and I haven't seen the second stage enough to know what to expect either. So
a lot of
almost there.
That's a lot of the spin jump around.
Yeah, that's one other thing that I wasn't a huge fan of, is I feel like sometimes the spin jump is inconsistent. Like, although it's probably my fault, just like rushing it. It's just annoying that if you try to hit the button slightly too fast, it just doesn't do the spin jump.
For me, I actually noticed pretty early on, if you're trying, it's not like a double jump. If you're just standing still and try to do the spin, jump forever, it doesn't work. You have to be moving. You gotta be
moving. Yeah, no, even with that, like I found that,
and it's pretty finicky sometimes too. Yeah, like you want to and it doesn't, or you don't want to and it does, and that definitely has made some boss fights more difficult than they need to be because of that issue.
For sure, yeah. Also, the other... sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, another thing I didn't like too much was the Emmys. Like, the first one or two were fine, but then they just became more of a hassle, those areas, than like enjoyable gameplay, because they weren't necessarily scary. The fact that the checkpoint right in front of those zones are kind of like a dual-edged sword. On one end, if you fuck up, you don't have to go very far back to redo it, but on the other hand, if you fuck up, there's no real consequence and you're just right there, and then you could just run through again.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like, there's a lot less tension because of the checkpoints being...
And it's called Metroid Dread, and those are the enemies that they highlighted pretty extensively in the lead up to release.
Yeah.
That you wanted to, dread, but then the first one was kind of stressful to deal with, but then all subsequent ones, the second one, you kind of start learning, but by the last couple, it's just an area I have to rush through, and I hope this thing doesn't get in my way to get where I'm supposed to go next.
Yeah, some
That
of
wasn't-
them were like when, especially when you're dealing with the water one, that is a pain because he can also like hit you through walls and stuff. Yeah. One of my only other issues with it, which is an issue I have with like really kind of all Metroidvania games, is like you go through the game collecting all these different abilities and power-ups, and when you get to the end, or when you get the final one, you're like right at the end. And I've always disliked that just because I feel like games should give you more time to spend fully powered up. Like that's one thing I love about Doom 2016 and especially Eternal, is that you get fully powered up and like you get to actually spend some time as that fully powered up badass. While with Metroid Dread, I mean, you literally get the last ability right before the final boss fight, which I'm just not a fan of that. Like I just wish games would give you more time with all your cool ass tools, also so that you just have more time to get used to them.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
that's
that kind
the
of
thing with all Metroidvania games
and
and games in general,
unfortunately.
actually.
And for the most part, the teleporting around is fine, but I kind of wish there was just a slightly better option versus like specific links between specific places. It's a little. I get it's kind of a relic of the past. I feel like because even like Castlevania lets you teleport around the map once you unlock a specific room. Axiom Verge, I can't remember if it does it or not.
Me neither.
Hollow Knight lets you do it, but with Metroid, you got to go to this elevator or this tram to go to this next area. You got to go to this elevator that'll take you to this area. The blue teleporter takes you to this other blue teleporter on the other side of the map. It's not like you could teleport around the map at your leisure, which kind of made collecting all the items kind of annoying. I would
Also, some of them are insanely difficult too.
yeah, all the carry over shine spark ones are just absurd.
Yep.
And it kind of discouraged me from 100%ing the game. One, I just couldn't
Also,
figure out
the
a
lack of
few of the
trophies.
shines. That to some extent, but also if I missed something and I had to go across one map to get to a teleporter to go to an area to then take another tram to this third area where I could then collect an item on the other side of that map, it's just way too much travel for me to care. So, I 100%ed a few areas, but just stopped caring because I didn't feel like traveling everywhere just to get to like that one area on the other side of the map to get a few items or something like that. But overall, amazing game, super fun, super enjoyable, good story,
Looks great.
looks amazing, plays
Sounds
amazing.
Great.
Yep.
It almost feels like it was made for the OLED. Also, I think the story is really interesting. Like, there's not much there, but I think it's just really cool. Like, I think the whole Metroid series has like a really cool story. Not like the most crazy or complicated sci-fi story in gaming, but just interesting. And I tend to be sci-fi biased a bit. Like, so I just really like sci-fi stories and stuff like that. So it's one of definitely like my favorite Nintendo series other than Zelda.
It's pretty underrated.
Very,
And,
yeah.
People always talk about Mario and Zelda, and then Mario has 1,000 spin-offs. Mario Kart, Mario Party, tennis, soccer, basketball, Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, all this shit. even Zelda's getting spin-offs like the Hyrule Warriors and stuff like that. But it's definitely one of those niche series that a lot of people love, and I think a lot more people are getting into, which is wild to me why they haven't released the fucking Metroid Prime trilogy yet.
Yep, I was just talking to my friend the other day, last night about that. Like, I really want to play those.
They're far. I like them better than the 2D ones. I love the 2D ones.
That's awesome.
But imagine everything you just played, but in 3D.
That's awesome. Yeah,
the exact same thing. The puzzles, the exploration in 3D.
I mean, like, I probably would have liked Prime more anyway, just because, you know, I'm a huge first-person shooter guy. But yeah, no, especially if it's like you say, then yeah, absolutely. Like, I can't wait to play, especially because there's gonna be some like platforming in first person, which I am a massive fan of. Like, I think first person platforming is one of the most underutilized and fun things in games, and yeah, I cannot wait to play them. And yeah, I'm just waiting for the trilogy on the Switch, just because I don't want to like go play it on Dolphin or, you know, PC emulator, and then it comes out on Switch and costs $60, which if I haven't played them yet, I'll be willing to spend. But if I have,
it will be, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
If Skyward Sword HD will be, if Skyward Sword HD is $60, all 3 Metroid Prime games in the trilogy will be $60.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
because Nintendo keeps getting away with it, so.
I hope Nintendo realizes, hey, a lot of people bought Metroid Dread, and it was pretty successful. Let's not wait till Metroid Prime 4 is about to release before we release Metroid Prime Trilogy.
Yeah, because they could keep people into the series. Although I don't think Prime 4 is going to have any trouble selling. But the people will stay interested if...
It'll probably sell better if they release Metroid Prime Trilogy in May, and Metroid Prime 4 is in September, for example.
Yeah, if
something
they, like
that.
release the trilogy halfway in between 4 and Dread, I think that would, like, be smart. Like,
it would carry a lot of momentum.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, that's gonna be fun, like, to play those, finally. And then, of course, 4, which who knows what they're gonna do with that. But, yeah. Fucking... I think...
So that was your number 3?
Yeah, basically. Well, it's my number 2, tied, but yeah, it's the third one I'm talking about.
Okay.
What's it called? Was that your number?
That was my number 4.
4, okay, so now that would mean your 3 is next.
Yeah. Now, I'm in a similar position with you where the next 2 can go either way. I don't know which I think is better or worse. I don't know which I would rank ahead of another. I'm just going to go with the older one because I remember it a little less and it's a little less fresh on the mind. But I don't think it's worse than my number 2. They're basically tied for number 2. I know it's going to be on your list too, but that is Ratchet and Clank.
Nice.
Yep, I love the game. It's fantastic. It's the perfect Ratchet game, I think.
Hell yeah.
The environments are... Everything is beautiful about the game. The
for sure. Animations, everything.
The rift loading between worlds is awesome. Like some of the set pieces where you're going through like 3 or 4 different planets is just...
Oh, yeah.
Is so cool.
In the rails, like...
Yep. The combat, as always, is just snappy and great and feels good. The guns are... You know, all the weapons are, for the most part, really enjoyable. The story is good. I like the fact that they basically just rebooted the game after what was it, 2016?
Yep.
After that, Ratchet, and just kind of rebooted the series, while still incorporating some of the previous future trilogy in this game. That one had Clank as like the keeper of time, basically, and he has a similar importance this time around with the weird dimension thing that Gary had you do.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I like, call back to that. But I mean, even going beyond that, Rivet was a great addition and a great character and really fun and enjoyable. The two Nefariouses were hilarious.
I loved them. Yeah.
Goofy Nefarious is always just amazing, and then more serious, actually successful Emperor Nefarious was great, and definitely
Robin Atkin Downs too.
Definitely not enjoyable, and I was happy to take him down, and I don't ever want to see him again, unlike Goofy Nefarious. And then
I actually did really like him though, because he was just so badass. Like,
oh yeah, but he was a good like one and done villain. Like I'll always happily fight Dr. Nefarious because of this just stupid crazy schemes and stuff like that, and he's just such an enjoyable character. And Emperor Nefarious was also an excellent character, don't get me wrong, but it was a good, like, you know what I mean, a one and done villain. I don't need to see him again. I really enjoyed him in that moment, and I'm good. Rivet was great. The other robot that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head.
He kind of reminds me of some of the MCU villains that are like threatening, but you don't need to see them like multiple times.
Right. Exactly.
Like, more of a, I don't know, Red Skull or Dark Elf guy than he is Helmet, Zemo, or Thanos, who are villains you want to see multiple times. Or at least I did. I think Zemo is fucking super underrated villain, but
he had some good characterization in the Hawkeye show. Or not Hawkeye, Falcon show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they made him a little, like, goofy, instead of just being, like, this fucking evil genius, like, scary motherfucker. But, it was still great just to see more of him, and it was also very funny at times, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved it. It was so good. The only knock I have against it, which I know sounds ridiculous coming from me, I expected and just wanted more. Like, I fully expected for the platinum for you to play a second game and to level up the weapons more. It almost seems wasted to me that they have so much more weapon to upgrade without any kind of, like, purpose for you to do it, except just to do it if you want. Like, I wish there was a trophy to push me to keep playing, but because there wasn't, and I platinumed the game, I just didn't really need to level every weapon to level 10.
Yeah,
which
I
is
think you
weird
had to do, was it one weapon to level 10, or...
You had to do 0 weapons to level 10. The only thing that required you to
bouncer,
continue,
right? Yeah, and you could get that before you even make it out of, like, the intro set piece.
Yeah.
That was the only thing you needed to go to New Game Plus for, which I was kind of, like, happy about, just because I thought 2016 went a little too far with its platinum, which is why I didn't get it. But yeah, there was a lot of people like unhappy with how, like, absurdly easy the Rift Apart platinum was, which I can understand. But I was also, like, needing to send my PS5 into Sony to get fixed, So rushing through the game, I was like kind of happy that the platinum was so obtainable at the time. But I also
Fair.
do want to play it again. Like, really, really want to play it again. And I also
Yeah,
got
I mean,
a crack in time on PS3, which was a fucking pain in the ass to buy and download, but I got it.
yeah. And that's just it's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good.
I can imagine, because I ripped apart, like, I mean, we'll talk a little more a bit later, but I was surprised at how good it was.
Yep.
But, okay. That was that your number 3?
That was my number 3. So we are at your number 2.
Cool. So for me, that is Guardians of the Galaxy. I really loved it. I did finish it, and yeah, it was fucking awesome. Like, the characters, the dialogue was just so much better than I expected. I mean, it reminded me of like a Naughty Dog or like Uncharted game. And that was exactly what I was hoping for. Like, when I saw the trailers and I was, like, seeing just how, like, the dialogue is and just how the Guardians of the Galaxy are with, like, the banter and just kind of comedy of it, I was thinking, it was like, man, this could be kind of like an Uncharted game, and they fucking nailed it. Like, they got everything you would hope for in a Guardians of the Galaxy game. Like, I just loved so much about that aspect of it, like with the characters and the story. Although I'd say like the plot is maybe not as amazing as just the characterization and banter that they had in there. But like, yeah, there was lots of other really cool things. It looked amazing on PS5, especially on the 30 FPS mode. Just completely blows away how it looks at 60, which is kind of unfortunate. It's not like a Ratchet and Clank or Spider-Man situation where it really doesn't look that much worse at 60. Although that was another thing about Ratchet and Clank that's very cool. The 120 hertz mode for fidelity mode, so it's 40 frames per second. Fucking fantastic, because it's way smoother than 30 and just looks as good as the fidelity mode, which looked incredible. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought the gameplay was actually really fun. Like, at first I wasn't totally convinced on it, but once you get used to it and like using all of your squad mates' powers and stuff, and also get used to using your own, it's really fun and also kind of easy when you get used to it. Like, because I turned it up to hard, and yeah, I got through the final boss fight on the second try. Like, he only killed me one time, and like my friend told me he played it on hard. He was having trouble with it, so I just wanted to see like how bad it was. But I actually found it kind of easy, and just, yeah, really fun game. I love all the different locations and Easter eggs. Like, especially oh, you're on Nowhere Now, you said. Make sure you go through the Collector's Museum. There's some really cool shit there.
I am the kind of person who explores everything all the time. Every little nook and cranny of everything. So
also,
that was going to happen regardless.
Spoiler alert, but in Nowhere, in that area, that is, you can find Star-Lord's movie costume somewhere, which is every movie costume I found I used for the rest of the game. Although I didn't find Drax's or Rocket's, unfortunately. But yeah, Star-Lord's is that was one of the trickier ones to find. I used a guide to find it. So yeah, just keep your eye out for that. It's I could give you a little hint if you want.
No, it's all right. I will look around Nowhere myself, and if I don't see it before the time comes to, or what I feel like might be story progression, then I'll just look up a guide.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, it's really great game. Great voice acting too. Like,
Oh yeah.
I was pretty impressed. Yeah, really cool story and just epic game. Lots of cool set pieces. The only thing I would have liked more of is more like actual space battles in the Milano. Well, that's about it, I'd say.
The one thing I really enjoy and appreciate is because we know who the characters are, because the MCU in this particular case did highlight these characters, like they were C-team comic characters. They were cool, you know, okay and cool, but the MCU and James Gunn just really made them outstanding.
A-team.
Yeah. So a lot of people go into this game just knowing who they are, and you don't need a ton of backstory, like the fact that they're just together already and going at it, and you get a little, you know, bits and pieces of their history as you go through. That's different than the MCU, which is fine, but just that knowledge of who they basically are kind of really helps set up the team without needing to know the origins of the team. But you still get the Guardians of the Galaxy game origins of the team anyways, you know, here and there. Yeah. Based on what I've played, you know, I'm on Nowhere. You learn a little bit about Outworld and what happened with Rocket. You learn a little bit about Drax, and he's the one who killed Thanos, and that's why he's infamous. You're learning about Peter and, you know, all of the stuff with him as a teenager, the little interludes and stuff like that. And that's all great, and it's just great character building and story building. And
when he was small and skinny, good for thieving.
Yep.
Get into places. Yeah, you know, the movie fucking thing. What's his name? Michael Rooker. Yondu. I love that guy. He's fucking awesome.
He was. I'm really excited to play more. It's going to be the next game that I beat once I am done with Endwalker.
Yeah, it's a really great game. Like, it's kind of like what I think most people wish. What's it called? The Avengers was like. Although I still think the Avengers, at least the story mode, was underrated. But yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy really nailed it, which is why it kind of sucks that like a lot of people were dismissive, very dismissive of Guardians of the Galaxy at first because of how the Avengers turned out. And I just thought that was like really fucking unfair and just fucking ignorant as hell, because the Avengers was not that bad if you just focused on the single player, which I don't know why people fucking didn't like. Because if your complaint was that, oh, the fucking multiplayer, it's a service game, if that's your complaint about the game, then why ignore the awesome single player? You know what I mean? Like, it's like they just didn't know that it existed.
Which is kind of what I was talking about earlier. I feel like people were quite dismissive off the bat because of the characters. Like, they expected Chris Evans as Captain America, but you didn't get that. They expected Robert Downey Jr. instead of Troy Baker. Troy Baker was Tony Stark, right?
No, he was
Bruce. Bruce Banner.
Banner, yeah. And Nolan North.
That's right.
Was Tony.
You know, they were, and Laura Bailey, of course. They're inseparable. You know, they expected MCU, but they got...
And her husband was Thor, I think. Like, in her real-life husband. He's that guy with, like, the deep voice and stuff. I don't know his name, but I just recognize his
Thor
voice.
And everything.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, shit.
in every like Lego game, and I think even in the Avengers cartoons and
Well,
animated movies and stuff like that.
he
Animated
was
television
also
shows.
Reggie in Infamous, which she was also in. But yeah,
Interesting.
he's a lucky guy.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, amazing game.
oh yeah. So you're number 2.
My
Well,
number 2.
actually, I am going to do number 1. I will still be able to hear you. I just won't be able to talk because I have wireless headphones. So, but I'll be back.
Okay. I think he was about to do number 1, but I think I will do my number 2 instead. If he can't talk and will just listen, and get back to me, is Deathloop, and it's tied for number 2. You know, it and Ratchet and Clank were both equally great in my eyes. It's just Deathloop came out a little more recently, and I played it and beat it more recently, not too long ago, and it's just an amazing game. The story was, for the vast majority of the game, was just so good. Learning everything about the visionaries and the world and everything that you had to do. The gameplay loop was great. It was really enjoyable to just go in and accomplish very little while still accomplishing a lot. It's not quite a rogue like in that everything after a day is just instantly erased. You can carry over weapons and trinkets and stuff like that, so you're always getting better. You're always getting a little stronger. You definitely get smarter by exploring the maps and learning the ins and outs of the maps and enemy placement, because it never changes from time of day to time of day, or from day to day, depending on the time of day. There are 4 locations, and each location is basically split up into 4 times of day: and morning, afternoon, or morning, noon, afternoon, and night. And then the day resets if you don't die before that. And each map is just a little bit different, with some different stuff going on depending on the time of day. But, you know, the same enemies are in the same places and morning on one map every single time. So you can definitely learn how to sneak around, or how to just stealth your way, kill certain enemies, move their... Well, you can't move their bodies in this game, but, you know, stuff like that. And then dealing with the visionaries is always fun. Dealing with their little sub-stories and learning about them is really enjoyable. The banter between you and Giuliano, who is the assassin trying to kill you in the trailers, is enjoyable because she talks to you here and there. It's a very addictive loop.
Yeah, I definitely want to play it at some point. Like, I feel like I could end up loving all of Arcane's game just because of the, like, player freedom aspect of it and different ways you can do things, which I'm a big fan of. That's part of why I love Metal Gear Solid 5 so much, and Crisis, of course, and Halo Infinite to a certain extent, which I didn't mention earlier as their honorable mention, but I really should have. I don't know how I didn't think of it, considering that that's what I've been playing, but yeah. But yeah, no, Deathloop looks really awesome, and I'm definitely going to have to try it at some point, although I also really want to go through Dishonored at some point too.
Yeah, Dishonored I love all of Arcane's stuff. from the Bethesda ZeniMax purchase by Microsoft losing Arcane to them being exclusive is what personally hurts the most for me. I know for you it's probably id.
Oh yeah.
But for me it's Bethesda's GameWorks or Softwork, I don't remember what the fuck they're called.
Softworks.
Is shitty, but I don't know. Not as big of a deal for me personally as Arcane.
Yeah.
It's probably better to go Dishonored first, Dishonored 1 and 2, and then Prey and or Deathloop, just because with Dishonored there are guns, but Dishonored is arguably much more stealth focused. Like you can be belligerent and wild and go through the game like crazy and kill everything, but it gives you a quote unquote, bad ending. The good ending relies on not killing much, if at all. And there are trophies for going through the game without killing at all.
That's pretty cool.
But you also kind of get used to not killing or not directly killing at least. And then having a sword as your main weapon versus when you get to Prey, if you want to play that, it's 100%, guns. And then Deathloop is kind of like the amalgamation where you have guns and a lot of cool guns, but you also have a couple powers like you do in Dishonored, like teleports and invisibility and stuff like that. So it'd be hard to go from like Deathloop to Dishonored, I think, in my opinion, versus the other way around. But it's not like Dishonored is a bad game. It's excellent. Both of them are excellent. Never played it.
I most likely was going to do Dishonored first, but I guess it's good to know that it's better to do it first.
I think so, at least, just because of mainly the weapon. I mean, Dishonored does have guns, but they're loud. You don't want to use them too much. I think it has, if I remember right, crossbows as well, but again, you don't want to kill as much. Whereas in Deathloop, it's encouraged
I think
to kill.
I like the idea of like the karma type idea, like you said. And not killing versus not killing people. Like it kind of reminds me of Metro, actually.
Where the world just gets shittier.
But yeah, definitely looking forward to playing those at some point. Hopefully in the near future, but yeah, I think I was telling you earlier, gonna have a very busy couple of months. Because of course they had to stack all kinds of different things in the February and March.
Oh yeah.
Not even to mention Elden Ring, which is another game I'm interested in, but no way I'm gonna have time to play it. I'll probably like April or May.
For me personally, I'm going Elden Ring over
Dying
Light.
What's it called? So I guess should I go with my number one?
I don't think we've talked enough about Ratchet and Clank, so sure.
Yeah, we haven't. So yeah, obviously it's Ratchet and Clank. We talked a bit about it already. Yeah, I was blown away by it, like really, and I really liked 2016, but I thought Rift Apart really took things to the next level, and I feel like it's a game as good as like the Uncharted games, as like really any of Sony's best. Like, but it specifically maybe reminds me a little more of Uncharted and just the fun run and gun nature of it, the funny story, the cool characters, and epic set pieces. Like, and I'm a sucker for set pieces big time, and I just loved them in this game. And also the boss fights were fucking awesome. Like, yeah, we mentioned Evil Nefarious and Goofy Nefarious already there. It's an awesome little duo. Like, kind of a really cool concept too, to go to like a universe where he always wins, which when he says that, it seems like just a goofy thing only he would say, and then you end up seeing that it's actually like true. It's pretty epic. Yeah, and like we said, the combat really fun, and I also loved how it, much like Returnal and what the fuck is the name of that game? The Warhammer... Oh, Necromunda, I think it's called. And I'm trying to remember what else. But there's been several games that have kind of borrowed from Doom Eternal. And obviously, I couldn't be happier about that. I forget what game coming up is also borrowing from... with the whole, you know, double jump and dash mechanic. Which I just fucking love. Especially when I can get my controls set up the way I want to. It's just, I'm hardly ever on the ground. And it's just super fun for me to be able to avoid incoming fire that way. And yeah, I just really loved the combat of the game. Also really loved all the side activities and like little puzzles and stuff. Although I think they could do some more like platforming stuff, and... Because, I mean, like... People have always called Ratchet and Clank a platformer, right? But to me, 2016 Rift Apart, they are shooters. Like, I don't see them as platformers at all, really. So I feel like they could have some more of that.
It was basically just like the pocket dimensions, the optional ones.
Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, that's another thing. Thanks for reminding me. Like, that's really cool about it is the way they used the SSD, including the pocket dimensions and the little teleporting things, which aren't as interesting, but like the set pieces where you're going from world to world, and especially what's the name of the planet? Glizar Prime, I want to say, where there were these different stones that you would hit and it would entirely change the world.
Oh, from like one dimension to the next point.
Yeah, or like a different point in time, I think. Wait, yeah.
I think it was
an explosion and then after, although it could have been different dimensions where...
I think there were different dimensions because it was one dimension where the planet was destroyed, basically, and then because you were there to get the crystals for the Dimensionator.
Yeah. Although for some reason I want to say that it was different points in times, because I thought that there was things you could do in the past that would affect... I could be wrong, though. But yeah, no, like, that was something that never could have been possible on PS4. Like, I thought it was stupid that, like, there were people coming out and saying, oh, this could be done on PS3 even. Like, no, it couldn't. Like, especially not the way they did it, like those little teleport things, which are, you know, more basic. But the way they handled it in this game would have not been possible on PS3, or the pocket dimensions, which were also done a different way. Like, you could do it a different way on PS3, but not the way they did it. But that, yeah, the thing on Blizar Prime, or whatever it's called, never. Because that was literally the entire level being loaded in within a second, which is just completely impossible on a mechanical hard, and actually impossible even on Xbox's SSD. Like, because it's just that much data. Like, I forget, I listened to some interview with them, and like about, you know, all the technology. I think it was a Digital Foundry interview with the lead guy from Insomniac, and yeah, it was an absurd amount of data to load in within a second, to do that whole little trick with the dimensional flipping on that planet, which was just like absurd. And yeah, so like technologically the game was very cool. Also the ray tracing, very cool. Like, although I do think that it's not like Spider-Man where the ray tracing is pretty much a must, and like or like Metro Exodus on PS5 where it's a total game changer. Like within Spider-Man, because I feel like the just there's so many glass buildings, mirror-like buildings, that ray tracing makes a gigantic difference in that game. And then also Metro, just because of it's a a game with a lot of natural lighting, low light, and having fully ray traced bounce lighting is just like completely changes that game. But it's still cool. Like, the game does a lot of cool things technologically. Oh, the other thing I loved, those little skate things that you have to like explore some of the bigger areas. Fucking epic. I loved that. Like, that was so much fun, I thought. Also, the little arena you fight in. Yeah, like, I loved everything in it.
Zircon Jr. as the announcer.
Yeah. Very funny. Yeah, I loved all the side activities and stuff, and the bigger areas you could explore. Like, the first one was that toxic planet, and like I loved the fight with that that flying thing. That it was kind of like a big ass centipede flying or whatever, sort of. Yeah, that was fucking epic. And what else? Oh yeah, one of my favorite parts is when you go to that kind of junkyard planet, and then the whole set piece with the giant robot. That was one of the coolest set pieces I've ever fucking seen. Like, that was just spectacular. And also I mentioned the cool things it does with 120 hertz TVs, which I really liked, because there was also you could do it with the performance mode too, like where so your TV would be, or the PS5 would output 120 hertz even though it was only 60, just to get less latency. Like, it cut down latency a little bit. So it's like just having those options was just really cool. Also great HDR and stuff. It's a beautiful game. Great sound. Great voice acting. Awesome fucking story. Like, I was really surprised how much I loved the story. And yeah, so it's like my 2, 3, and 4 were ties, but yeah, Ratchet was just a clear winner for me this year.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I hope that the future, well, I hope the series continues. I see no reason why it wouldn't. I feel like this sold pretty well, especially just being a PS5 exclusive.
I think it did, yeah.
And I feel like Ratchet is one of those like Sony mascots that is timeless. With Crash Bandicoot, it was like the PS1 mascot, it and Spyro, but they're owned by Activision. And while Crash is still like associated with PlayStation quite a bit, it's just not quite the same anymore. Whereas Ratchet is as close to like one of the main PlayStation mascots as we have. They kind of tried forcing Sackboy a little bit, and I don't know if that was super successful. And then you have a lot of like, quote unquote real characters like Nathan Drake and Joel / Ellie. But in terms of like cartoony-ish characters, it's Ratchet and Clank.
I also feel like
and Insomniac is owned by PlayStation now, so
yeah, what a smart buy that was. Like, it's PS5's only been out a year. They've already put out 2 epic AAA games.
With more to come with Spider-Man 2.
I'm less of a fan of Miles Morales for sure, but it's still a great game and a huge release for, they did it within 1 year. It's just absurd that they managed to do that, but Insomniac is no joke. But what was I gonna say? Oh, I also think, like, as far as mascots go, I feel like Ratchet and Clank will continue to be the most relevant. Like, just because it's a shooter, so it has the potential to, like, I feel like more people, that's the type of game that more people will enjoy playing than some of the other ones, which are like platformers and stuff like that, which, obviously everyone loves and are very popular. But I feel like these days, I think more gamers are more maybe inclined to play a shooter. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's such a great mascot to have for them going forward. But yeah. So was Deathloop your number one?
No, that was my number 2.
Oh, and then Ratchet was your 3.
Or Deathloop, Ratchet are both number 2, and they're tied.
Yeah, tied. Yep. Okay.
I mean, this should come as no surprise.
Endwalker?
Endwalker.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I haven't finished it. I've played quite a bit of it. I feel like I'm in the last 30% or so of the story now. It's so good. It's just it's so good. I don't have words to describe. I gushed over Shadowbringers when it came out a couple of years ago now.
And what was it? Heaven's Word?
Heaven's Ward was also a really good story. Stormblood was okay. I had issues with Stormblood, but it was
about that one. Yeah.
Waiting for you.
yeah. But
Feels like a
I mean,
lifetime ago.
they have been telling this story now since technically 1.0 when the game sucked. So they've been telling the story for 11 years now, and they rebooted the game but still incorporated the original 1.0 of the game. But since 2013 in A Realm Reborn, they've just been, telling a story, and A Realm Reborn was okay. It's pretty good, but compared to what came after it, it was nowhere near as good. But there was still, plot threads and plot points and cliffhangers and loose ends that haven't been tied up, and they're tying them up now. I mean, there is one major patch story patch during Heaven's Ward that basically told you the premise of the expansion that was going to come like 4 years later. And it was, not a footnote, but it was not this major thing at the time, but it became the expansion. So, as far as I'm concerned, that team is just masterclass at telling a story. Now they've refined their armor.
They're the ones making Final Fantasies
16.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6, and I was like, wait a second, no, that's not right.
No, Super Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Also amazing.
Yeah.
But no, it's the character development, the plot twists already, the building on the world where they take you, the music, it's just incredible. And I am sad that I'm kind of sad that it's hard to play if you're not on top of staying in the game right now.
Yeah.
I logged my wife in when we started, and she just got in the game about 20 minutes ago.
Holy shit.
She, that was the queue time from 3,000.
Oh man, that's rough.
At about an hour, 40 minutes. So it's not the easiest thing to play if you're not in the game at nighttime.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the story just got better and better and better. And then you get to the third area, and it's just like, holy shit. And they're still sprinkling in like classic Final Fantasy themes and characters and music even. Like it's not a secret, but you go to the moon. It's in the trailers, it's part of the title screen.
Like Destiny, but way more interesting.
Yeah. I'm not going to debate that in the slightest bit. It's based off of, in Final Fantasy IV, you go to the moon and you fight some shit there. But when you're on the moon, you go to an area of the moon, and then when you fight enemies, it's the battle music from Final Fantasy IV, the Super Nintendo game. Just like up-res in modern times, yeah.
Kind of like the 7 soundtrack, well, the remake 7 soundtrack, I mean.
Kind of, but instead of like redoing it orchestrally, it is basically like an HG chip chiptunes kind of
Oh.
deal.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just awesome. And then the story, the plot twists, the story, the characters, the story. It helps that, you know, for a lot of people, this is a story that's been culminating for literally hundreds and hundreds of hours. To play through all of A Realm Reborn, then Heaven's Ward, then Stormblood, then Shadowbringers. It takes hundreds of hours to play this story, and it's I don't want to say it's like the MCU of gaming, but it's kind of similar in that vein, where by the time Phase 4 ended, was it Phase 3 or Phase 4 with Endgame? There was just so much build-up and so many characters and so much story and plot and threads that were woven together that came to like this final end point. And that's what this game is, because, you know, there's just been so much going on, and, you know, it's been a journey. It's been a long journey. I haven't finished it. I don't need to finish it. I know that it's, without it being spoiled, people are saying the story's incredible, the journey is incredible, the expansion is incredible, so I'm sad that I don't know if I'll finish it before Christmas when I go to Connecticut. I do not own it on PC, and I don't know if I want to buy it on PC just to play it on PC versus my 65-inch 4K
Would
TV.
you even be able to like transfer your save over, or?
Because it's an MMO, everything is server-side on their side, so I can easily log in.
So
from
you can
PC.
link your accounts and stuff.
Oh yeah, I already have. I technically bought 1.0, the original crappy version of the game, a long time ago on PC, and I played it a little bit. When they relaunched it, I bought the PS3 version at the time, but I still technically, they upgraded everyone who owned the PC version to continue owning the PC version, so I have always owned the base PC version. They gave away Heaven's Ward for free, and I think they gave away Stormblood for free last year as well, so I have up to there on the PC, but that doesn't do me any good in Walker. And
Yeah.
I just don't want to play it on a computer versus my 65-inch 4K TV.
Well, even, I mean, I have my PC hooked up to the same TV as everything else, and I still, I'd just way rather play on console. Fuck PC.
Plus, I'm just used to playing on a controller versus keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, I don't know if there's controller support.
There is.
Oh, in that game, there's
There's not only controller support on PC, but there's also keyboard and mouse support on PS5.
console. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, not all games do it. There are actually some surprising exceptions. Like the Call of Duty Modern Warfare series on PC somehow does not have controller support. Well, except for the remastered versions, which actually I don't even know if they ever put on PC. Well, actually, yeah, I think they put 4, but I just don't know about 2. That was exclusive to PlayStation. Oh, no, yeah, that's true. The newest Modern Warfare does, but yeah, 1, 2, and 3, no gamepad support at all. Which is why, like, I mean, luckily Steam has the ability, but to like map the keyboard to your controller, which works pretty well if you tune the response curve a little bit, just so that it's not linear, which is the way it normally would be until you fuck with it. But even then, it's still just not quite the same as, especially for a Call of Duty game, it's not the same as just having actual controller support. Which is very odd. But that,
Yeah.
because the Black Ops series does have the controller support, go figure. Oh yeah, Mass Effect, that's the other one that That was why I waited so long to play Mass Effect, is because PC version had 0 controller support.
Yeah, that's obnoxious.
Oh yeah. It's like, if you have controller support on the console version, why wouldn't you just port it over? I mean, you're porting the whole game. You know, it's odd, but that's just the nature of PCs. There's some random shit that is annoying, but like when it all adds up, it just makes me not want to play on PC personally.
Yeah. So I'll be able to play it tomorrow, a little bit Thursday, but we got to start packing to go to Connecticut, and then come back on Monday. Got to get ready to go to. I don't have to go to work on Monday, or when I get back home. So I'm hoping to beat it by the end of next week.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to click on the wrong thing or see the wrong thing and have it spoiled for me. I do a pretty good job of avoiding spoilers for the most part. Like, I haven't seen the last couple of MCU movies. I'd rather wait for them to be on Disney+.
Actually. Like, I saw Black Widow, but not the Eternals or the other one.
Shang-Chi.
Or Spider-Man, which I hear is really good.
Yeah.
And there's spoilers everywhere for that. But yeah, I'm gonna go see it soon.
I have to wait until it's on Disney Plus to see it. So that's going to be difficult. But with, I just don't want to, like, I already watch some stuff related to Final Fantasy on YouTube occasionally. I don't really watch MCU related things. So I don't want to accidentally have it in the algorithm that because I watched Final Fantasy 14, someone posts a video when it's in the thumbnail or title, or because people are dicks and will do that.
Oh yeah.
And
or in the titles. That was why I unsubscribed to Power Picks, the trophy guy, because dude, he would constantly spoil stuff, and I'm like, what is wrong with you, dude? How do you, like, the day the game came out too? It's like, how do you not know that fucking showing? I don't remember. There was one specific example I was gonna think of. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, no, like, you know what I mean. Like they.
Yeah.
In comments, stay away from the comments.
Yeah, so I would really like this game not spoiled for me in the story. Especially, I've made it this far into it. I'm, like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm in the last, like, 30-ish% of it. And I need to finish it before anything dumb happens. And I just, I want to play. I want to do nothing but play. I want to go in. If I didn't have to go to work in 20 minutes, then I would be playing in 20 minutes. I would have been playing now, but I didn't want to not concentrate on the game while doing this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like one thing it's such a bummer about the whole server thing. Is like, you're probably dying to finish the game, and like you're having trouble even playing it just because of the whole queue.
Yeah, but I mean, on one hand, it sucks. On the other hand, I can't be too upset about the fact that everyone wants to play this game so bad that it's hard to play it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
although
so good.
A lot of them are also like, bandwagon fans and stuff. Like, they're just, all the old G's are now having trouble. So that would bug me.
I mean, it does, and I've gotten around it a little bit here and there, jumping and staying in the game all day so I can play at night. And I play occasionally during the day if my kids allow it. So it's not like I'm making zero progress along the way. I'm slowly but surely getting there. I'm not trying to rush it either. I want to take my time. I want to enjoy the experience and the journey and all that. And my goal is to finish it by the end of next week. And I'm pretty sure I'll be able to. While still fucking around in it and all that.
Yeah. Do you think a Switch port would be possible?
No.
No.
It runs like ass on PS3. But they haven't even. I don't know if they support it on PS3 anymore. They haven't released the last 3 expansions on PS3 just because it can't. They were held back by it too much. So you can only get it on PS4, PS5, PC, and I'm sure they're going to start. I don't know if they're going to phase out PS4 anytime soon because PS5s are still kind of hard to come by.
Yeah.
And PS4 runs it well enough, especially the Pro. Regular PS4, not as much.
Yeah.
But it's still doable. Still very doable. And there are tons of settings that let you help run the game better. So there's a lot going on with a lot of people. You could basically just like turn a lot of that off and focus more on you and the direct surrounding people around you. And enemies, obviously.
Also, I would assume
Which absolutely not.
I would assume that game is heavier on the CPU side, which is the Switch's weakness. So yeah, it's like that could be the main issue. Like, especially if it doesn't run good on PS3. Although Switch does have PS3 beat quite easily graphics wise, but yeah, the CPU is the bottleneck on the Switch. Which in a game MMO, lots of NPCs everywhere could be a problem. Yeah, but that would be kind of interesting if they tried that, I think.
Well, also one of the bigger problems is it's all mostly server side of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you would need to be basically docked at all times. It's not something you could play on the bus. You would need to be around a stable Wi-Fi connection at all times because it's an MMO. It's 100% online. There is no offline anything to it.
Huh. Yeah, I knew that. I was like, wasn't sure how demanding it was connection-wise.
I mean, if you're doing single-player story stuff, it's probably not that big of a deal. And the way the game is designed, it gives you some cushion for lag and delay. The global cooldown, for example, on your abilities is 2 seconds, and a lot of the telegraph abilities take a few seconds to take effect, so it's not like you need split-second reaction times or anything like that. It helps, and you will absolutely need it for the hardcore difficult stuff, which there is plenty of in the game. But if you're just doing it for the story, you don't. The Switch might be able to run it. It would need to be docked. It would need to be like 720p or something like that, and a lot of settings turned down, and a lot of like people turned off.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah, maybe like, oh, you know what could be like the draw distance could be bad, which is something that does happen with like open world games on Switch. Like Dying Light looks actually awesome on the Switch, but that is one of the things they had to cut back on is draw distance.
Yeah, I am considering a Steam Deck just so I could play Final Fantasy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, good point.
But one day when they're available and cheaper, because it feels like one of those things Valve will just stop supporting and make really cheap down the line.
I also feel like it would be worth it to get the top end Steam Deck, just because I wouldn't want to rely on SD cards for like full ass PC games. You know what I mean?
Feels good to be
Yeah.
Especially more modern ones. So yeah, no, it's an expensive piece of kit. It does look pretty cool though, but yeah.
I have to assume that one day it'll be cheap, because Valve hates supporting their own stuff for lengths of time.
Yo, yeah, that's a good point. Like
Steam controller, Steam Link,
$5.
Steam whatever.
Yeah.
If the Steam Deck isn't like a smashing success in the next 6 months, then they're just gonna liquidate and discontinue, and then it'll be cheap, and I'll get it then.
And even if it is a success, the price will go down.
Yeah.
Eventually, like especially when like the parts become just, you know, less expensive and easier to manufacture. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in the Steam Deck. I mean, 60 FPS Doom Eternal on the go sounds pretty fun. I do love the Switch port, but yeah, if it was 60 FPS, it would be easier to play. Sure. But
That
yeah,
doesn't for me.
cool. Well, another year done. Another year of great games, although I think next year is as stacked as hell, including in the early part of the year. So
Yeah.
might be a tougher list next year, but still pretty great this year, I thought, considering it's only the second year of the PS5, and I would say much better than 2014 was for PS4.
Yeah. I don't even remember, except for Infamous, I don't remember anything that came out in 2014.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, that was why Dragon Age Inquisition like won a lot of Game of the Years and stuff.
I mean, it was a good game.
Yeah. Just one of those years, kind of like 2012. Although I did love that Journey won Game of the Year that year. That was like one of those years that just didn't have a whole lot. So yeah, that was how amazing little indie like Journey could sneak in and steal the Game of the Year. But cool. I know you gotta go, so
Yep.
it was fun. I guess I'll talk to you soon and do another one of these in about a year.
Gotta be ready at a moment's notice.
Or another one of these in a couple of weeks if we want to do a Xbox Series X
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Armor locked.
like you were talking about.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah,
I'll
definitely
find
could
some
do
Series
that.
X.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get mine fixed too, though. 'Cause, yeah,
Again?
like I said. Well, yeah, like I said, they did nothing. They didn't fix a single thing, so I'm gonna
That's
have to
shitty.
send it in again, which really pisses me off because they just didn't listen at all. But I'll keep sending it to them until they fucking fix it, or just give me a new one. So, yeah. So I might
That's
not
so
have
shitty.
it next time. That's why I actually wanted to finish Halo Infinite. It's just so that I can send it in after I finish it, I guess, since I've already got maybe halfway through the game. But all right,
Now that you're here,
cool. I guess I'll
real hope.
talk to you soon, and bye to the stream.
All right. That was good. That was fun.